wanted to show you this video of AOC on The View as they're talking about supporting Joe Biden, as they're talking about the presidency and what this means for the country going forward. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Congresswoman, some progressives are suggesting that with Bernie out of the race, they'll vote third party. That would be a catastrophe, in my opinion. What do you say to those people? And also, part two, Biden has made some efforts to appeal to progressives, like lowering the eligibility age for Medicare to 60 and expanding student debt forgiveness. Is that enough?
I think. Thank you. Yes, I think, and I think that they're connected questions. As I think what's really important is that we do realize that at the end of the day, one of these two candidates are going to be elected president of the United States. It's either going to be Joe Biden or it's going to be Donald Trump. And I think it's important to, communicate some empathy. I know for a lot of people, this was not the outcome that they may have wanted, and this was not the choice that they wanted to make. But ultimately, when it comes to those two, I don't think it's particularly close in terms of what communities will be made more vulnerable. And I think but what I also think is really important is that the way to I think move in a unifying direction, as I said before, is that unity isn't a feeling, it's a process. And I think that that Biden can go further. I think that it's not necessarily enough. Lowering Medicare to 60 by 5 years is still more conservative than what Hillary Clinton proposed in 2016. Hillary was talking about lowering it to 50 4 years ago. And so I think that there's certainly room. I think that there's going to be room on issues like immigration, Puerto Rico, healthcare, climate change. And I think that it's healthy to do that. And I think what we shouldn't do is recreate this dynamic where we are kind of finger wagging and nagging people into voting because it's not a way of generating enthusiasm. I think one thing that we can do is improve the policies that we have as a party to tell young people, to tell all sorts of people, we see you and we have a plan for you and we're going to create hope for all sorts of communities in the United States.
Now, Vice President Biden's been very clear that he plans to pick a female vice president. You're not old enough to be eligible to run with him, but do you have any suggestions for a female vice president, someone that you'd like to see on your party's ticket?
I think what's incredible is that we have a lot of talented women of color who are leaders in this country, whether they're in Congress or whether they're in the Senate, whether they're governors of states or whether they don't even hold elected positions at all, but had held elected positions. I think what's really important is that it's a combination of two things. One, of course, to have our first female vice president and to have that be a woman of color is a significant milestone. But the other thing that I think is important is, what does this woman value? What policies does she champion? And that brings it more, that's the difference between us just talking about a token and us talking about substantive, incredible leadership. And so in terms of who that is, it's really hard to kind of to point some out because there are leaders out there. But, I don't think we have a shortage of them. That's for sure. I would love that woman to be progressive as a kind of a counterbalance politically.
Right. Well, keep your thinking cap on because, we're going to ask you again.
Okay, so there were a few things that she said that really stood out. So she talked about the importance of communicating empathy. Understand that Bernie Sanders supporters, these are people that want Medicare for all. These are people that see a huge problem with wealth inequality and they want to see things change. And they want to push for more equality. They want to push for a different future. Now, AOC brings up a good point in saying either Biden or Trump, one of those two, are going to become president, and they're not close. Biden, he's not Bernie Sanders, he's not as progressive, but Trump's policies will definitely hurt poor people a lot more than Biden's. Trump's policies are going to negatively impact Latinos and other people a lot more than Biden's policies. AOC brings up the fact, like, Hillary Clinton, some of her ideas were actually more progressive than Joe Biden. She wanted Medicare to go to those that were 50 years old, where Joe Biden proposed 60. What AOC said about having a woman of color elected, that shows her intelligence in saying, yes, that's good to have a woman of color, but policy is what matters. That's where you see leadership and substance, and it's not just tokenism. She emphasized the point of policy. If you want to elect a woman, you can have Sarah Palin get elected, or you could have Betsy DeVos get elected president. That's nothing to cheer about. The idea of getting a woman as president, that's not more important than getting a woman who cares about good policy. It's better to have someone, regardless of their race, of their gender, who cares about policy and who's promoting the right type of policy. I'll have more videos coming out on history and politics. I think AOC, personally, is fairly wise in some of what she says. Thanks for watching.